what we're looking for when we cry as an infant is belonging, love, nurturing, nourishment. We want to know that we are an integral part of this tribe,
Mm.
that we are needed, that we are valued, that we are accepted. Not that we're a nuisance who needs to be put in a cot separate from everybody else and left to deal with it on our own. So we sort of start looking at the behaviors of our parents, of our siblings, of our community, of everything, and we're looking at how other people also interact. But these people were also raised in that way. So they've got their own trauma patterns from that. So you can sort of see how it all kind of, gets a bit
Yeah.
messy at this point. But then also, our job physiologically is we need to live to adulthood. How do we do that? If we're not accepted by our tribe, because it is still that ancient DNA where we did live in tribes, all of us, that ancient DNA says if I'm not accepted by the tribe, I'm going to be cast out into the wilderness and I'm going to die. So we look for those ways that we're going to be accepted in our tribe, that we are going to be accepted and loved. So we then develop behaviors that we see around us. And if we do something that doesn't get a positive reaction, we stop doing that thing as much as we can, or we hide that thing if it's an integral part of us. And so we have to look out when we're younger because we need to understand behaviors that keep us included. Then obviously, if something's wrong with us, well, we go to the doctor. If something happens at school, we're supposed to go to the teacher. If something happens at home, we defer to our parents. Yet, as we get closer and closer to adulthood, we're not actually then
Mm.
untaught all of that conditioning. We're just sent out in the world and now you're on your own. You're an adult. Go fly. And it's like, what the hell? We're
And then
not
you have a
taught
kid,
any of the,
and then you
yeah,
pass it on to them, and you do it over and over.
exactly. Until there are people who are breaking those conditioning patterns.
Well,
And that's
go
what I
ahead.
find fascinating.
Well, I'm sorry to jump in, but I
No,
find
go.
fascinating as well. So let's spin that the
Mm,
other way and say that there's an argument being made today. I'm not saying it's the right argument, but that
yep.
self-love, compassion, vulnerability, a lot of the things we're talking about are actually a bad thing, right? And let's give the benefit of the doubt for a second to some of those parents or whoever
Mm,
it might be that are practicing that parenting style that we're saying like, maybe not the best. I think there's an argument to be made that they would say, which is that the world is a really tough, ugly, horrible place,
mm-hmm,
and we need to teach our kids and prepare our kids for that in some way. And if we give them all that connection and all that comfort and all that love, they're not prepared for the world. So it might be nice and idealistic to say, we don't let them cry at night until they fall asleep, but the reality is we have to do that for society to function, for them to
mm,
function in this interconnected society. They need to be able to handle all that stuff.
mm.
Again, not saying it's right, but how do you
Yeah.
think about that? Is there any credibility to that? Is there any argument to be made there?
Well, interestingly enough, I was actually listening to some work from Dr. Gabor Mate, and he's an incredibly informed trauma specialist, and all of the data that is out there basically disproves that.
Mm.
The reason we think that is because that's how we were raised. We think that we should be raising kids for a tough, ugly world. Yet, what if we showed our children more love? What if we showed them that they belong and that they are loved and that they are cared for? And yeah, there are assholes out there, but that if you approach everybody with love, actually, there's more love in the world. So, therefore, is the world as ugly and horrible and hard as we're taught that it is? I actually believe that if we lead with that love, if we truly belonged, if we truly felt that we belonged, we would also be able to see those behaviors
Mm.
because it's not like we're separated from it. We still go to school, we're still mixing in it. But if we have that safe place at home, that soft place to fall at home, that place that is nurturing and loving and connected and supportive, and where we can explore our emotional state, where we can explore who we are, then we actually go out in the world with more heart, more love, more openness. And it's fascinating now that the data, I mean, they prove science can be up to 18 years behind actually what's going on. And I find it really interesting that a lot of this trauma information is coming out now, and I was learning it 5, 6, however many years ago,
Yeah.
because it's always been there. It's always been in the data.
Mm.
It's just that that's not really convenient for us who are trying to live our 9 to 5 lives, and we're trying to still have our, date nights and this, that, and the other. It's kind of inconvenient to have a baby basically, attached to you because, then how do we go out and work and earn the money to have the things to, so also we want the babies to fit into our lifestyle.
Well, and that's an interesting point because
Yeah.
you're right. Because it becomes like a practical question of, and maybe that's at the heart of this. Maybe it's a philosophical question, maybe it's not. But
Yeah.
like for us to achieve, us, society, whatever you want to call it, rhetorical us, to achieve the things we've achieved, to innovate, to create, to develop all these
Yeah.
amazing things, do we need to approach it that? Like, is it a binary choice that says we can embrace what the data is showing us, what you're saying, and probably have healthier, more well-adjusted kids, arguably happier kids, right? Maybe even we'd be happier as well, but we wouldn't achieve as much. It wouldn't allow, just practically, it would limit us more. And that's just an inconvenient truth that maybe we don't want to face as a society. So we like to think we can have both. The data obviously it seems to show us that we can't, but we refuse to accept that. Is there a truth to that we can't have both?